Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast. It is late Friday, April 26th of 2024. We're starting this bad boy at 11:58 p.m. Central Time. So it's basically Saturday. The second and third round of the NFL draft are in the books, and we have three new Houston Texans. They did not trade up. They did not trade back with their first pick, the originally slotted 42nd pick. They took Georgia cornerback Kamari Lassiter with that pick. Then, with pick 59 of the NFL draft and the 27th pick of the second round, they took Blake Fisher, a offensive tackle who's primarily been a right tackle at Notre Dame. And then in the third round, they traded pick 86, a third rounder, pick 123, a fourth rounder, to move up to pick 78 and draft USC safety Calen Bullock. Immediate reactions. Number one, I am never going to tell you whether or not a guy drafted is going to be good or bad because I don't know, and anybody that tells you they know is talking out of their ass. Do I think any of these guys are going to contribute immediately, though? I'm not so sure. Nor am I sure that any of these three players are the finishing touch to take the Houston Texans from being a playoff contender to a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think that the moves that they did in free agency are going to get them way, way, way further towards that goal than anyone picked today. And that's nothing against the guys picked today, but I am wondering about how much we'll see all three of them this coming season in 2024. Danielle Hunter, Stephon Diggs, Danico Autry, Azeez Al-Zaire. You feel like you're going to see a lot of those guys this coming season. Hell, you might even see more Jeff Okudah, CJ Henderson than the guys that were selected tonight. I'm not somebody who pretends that I know what these prospects can do. In fact, I did not even watch the tape of these guys. What I am going to do is relay to you things that have been written about these guys and ask some questions and try to answer those questions. First, though, let's read some comments here. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant, Twitch.tv/Gallant Says, on Twitter @Gallant Says, on Instagram @SportsGallant, and on Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports. What's up, Chris House? Yep, sorry, took too long to get there. Spartan_A11Z. What's up, Master Chief? Says, it's a B- for me, a bit of a buzzkill. Well, I mean, if anything that happens in the second or third round of an NFL draft gives you a pants tent, I don't know. I feel like you might be too into the NFL draft. I do not put myself in that category. Perhaps you have deep steel blue balls because they didn't draft a first round pick. But really, any hot takes about what happened tonight are, in my opinion, generally a reach. I think the people that mock draft into the second round are fucking crazy. Like, I think unless you're getting paid to do it, like our guy Lance Zierlein, I think it's a lot. NJ Fuentes Respecter says, the cornerback is the least inspiring. I have a feeling the offensive tackle is going to be hit the cornerback Kamari Lassiter again, and the tackle Blake Fisher. Chris House is giving it a B+. Collectible says Bullard is a sleeper of a pick by his highlights. Gets a lot of interceptions, does Bullard. At least did 2 years ago, this past season. But that was really a USC defense problem as a whole. David Uribe says, wishes we had traded up for Newton or DeJean. But a corner from Georgia can't hurt. That's sort of my gut reaction. So let's read about all of these guys. From what is written about Kamari Lassiter in his draft profile that was put together by Lance Zierlein of my radio station, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Make sure you're listening to him in the mornings from 7 to 10 with John Granato and Dell. He also works for NFL.com. He does this. His dad was an NFL coach, and I trust his judgment on a lot of these players. He projected Lassiter as a third-round pick. His NFL comparison is DeAndre Baker. You probably know more about DeAndre Baker from things that he did off the field than his time with the New York Giants. In 2021, he played in all 15 games for the national champs. In 2022, he started all 15 games for the national champs. 38 tackles, 5 tackles for a loss, 4 deflected passes. This past season, second team All-SEC. He led the team with 8 passes broken up. Started all 14 games, 37 tackles, 3.5 of them for a loss. You'll note only 1 interception in 3 years. Is that the end of the world? Is that a sign that he was really good at covering guys? To be perfectly honest, I don't know. But I'm going to keep on reading Lance's report. Spunky but slender, with the mentality to sift through the highs and lows that come with the position. That probably means he's got a short memory. Lassiter has the athleticism and dog to play press man coverage and all forms of zone. His instincts and play recognition are getting better to help shadow routes and pester catch points, but he hasn't yet flashed as a corner looking to play the football and flip the field. Lassiter could see flags early in his career as he struggles to keep up with deep throws and doesn't always trust his technique. He's physical and well coached with the potential to play as a nickelback or roving safety. Interesting, because don't the Texans have a couple of nickel cornerbacks? Desmond King, who they brought back. I think Desmond King is very good in that nickel role, especially when it comes to run support. They just signed Miles Bryant away from the New England Patriots. That is also his role. So you're wondering to yourself, okay, is he going to play nickel corner? Is he going to compete for a spot at nickel corner? So that last part is interesting, roving safety, because the Texans also drafted a safety a little bit later today, a guy who has a lot of takeaways. Is that something that we could potentially see Lassiter do? Something just to keep in mind. More write-up from Lance before we ask some questions. Instincts and play recognition took a step forward in 2023. These are his strengths. Confident in press coverage. Has the footwork to mirror patterns from a side shuffle and quarters coverage. Easy to open hips. Hit the gas. Carry wideouts into their route. Uses hand fighting to disrupt receivers' rhythm, getting downfield. Reads receivers' eyes for clues when face guarding. Belligerent at the catch point. That sounds fun. Wired correctly for NFL run support duties. Okay, again, that's another trait that you would want to hear about a nickel corner. His weaknesses, average recovery burst in his lateral transitions from off. What the fuck does that mean? Has a tendency to lose some ground from trail technique, loses outside leverage too easily when drifting towards the hash. More of a route guarder than a playmaker. That's true. Only 1 interception. Needs to attack and free himself from perimeter blockers earlier. I would think that's the case for most corners. Did not display good speed at the pro day. Yeah, he ran a 4.65 40. He's tough, plays hard, said an AFC regional scout. So there you go. That's the write-up on Kamari Lassiter. So let's ask some questions here. He was the 6th cornerback off the board. And if you were paying attention to Texans conversation and the NFL draft on Thursday, you knew that leading up to the first round of the draft and during the first round of the draft, there were a lot of reports that were essentially saying, I wouldn't be surprised if the Houston Texans trade up. And you kept seeing it and you kept seeing it. I guess you have to be surprised since the Texans didn't trade up. I can't believe that qualifies as reporting in 2024, but whatever. rumors are now reports in sports. This isn't just an NFL thing. If you want people to, I guess, come to that Twitter profile of yours, you got to put some juicy shit out there. But it does seem like the Texans wanted to trade up into the first round just based off of all of those reports about how people wouldn't be surprised if they trade up. We heard from Nick Caserio after the draft tonight that the Texans made phone calls on Thursday. None came to fruition. They also made calls today, but were prepared to pick at 42. Those corners that went off the board before Kamari Lassiter, Quinyon Mitchell, a cornerback from Toledo. He went to the Eagles. Some thought that he might be the guy the Texans were thinking about trading up to go and get. The next one, a couple picks later, Terrion Arnold from Alabama went to the Detroit Lions with the 24th pick. 30th pick, Nate Wiggins goes to the Baltimore Ravens. He's a corner from Clemson. So those are the day one picks. Tonight, at pick 40, just 2 picks in front of the Texans, the Philadelphia Eagles took Cooper DeJean, the white guy, cornerback from Iowa. To move up, they traded 2 second-round picks, a 50 and a 53rd, for that pick number 40, pick 78 and 152. They also sent 161. So basically, in a nutshell, they traded 2 second-round picks and a later-round pick for that pick, earlier second-round pick, and a later third-round pick, plus an extra one. They wanted to get Cooper DeJean, and clearly, they sensed that the Houston Texans wanted a corner. Why else would they trade up to 40 with to move up that way? The very next pick number 41, the New Orleans Saints traded up in front of the Texans to get Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. They sent a 5th and a 6th to move up from 45 to 41. So 2 teams moved in front of the Houston Texans to get a corner. Hard to prevent that from happening if you're Nick Caserio. If you really wanted a guy, you would probably ante up, use a little bit more draft capital to move into the spot that would allow you to pick the guy that you wanted. And I'm assuming, this is an assumption, that the guy that the Houston Texans really wanted is one of those first 2 names, Quinyon Mitchell and Terrion Arnold. I don't know which one. Does stand to reason that D'Amico Ryans, given his Alabama ties and the 2 Alabama players that they drafted last year, would have maybe wanted Terrion Arnold. But I'm entirely speculating here. I do not know. Right after the Texans took Kamari Lassiter, the Arizona Cardinals took Max Milton, a cornerback from Rutgers. So there was a run on corner. And you do have to wonder, because so many corners were taken in a row, 4 in a row, if Nick Caserio was reacting to what he thought was a run on a position of need for the Texans. That was a position of need. But if you read the profile, this guy seems like he's more of a slot cornerback than a traditional outside cornerback. Some fun facts about Kamari, and we'll get to some of your comments and move on to talking about Blake Fisher, the tackle that they drafted from Notre Dame. But he ran a very slow 40, a 4.65 40. This was at his pro day. So this wasn't even at, the combine or something like that. Usually the pro day 40 times are a little more favorable for players. For context, I am a 5'11" and a half, 183-pound man. About 10 years ago, your boy ran a 4.84 40 at the NFL Combine. Not the NFL Combine, at the Sports Radio 610 Combine. Goddamn, I'm fast. But on a serious note, that's not a great time, especially for a corner. If we're talking about a bigger guy, you're okay with that. Talking about a corner, these are the guys that you want to be the fastest players on the field. And Nick Caserio even acknowledged that 40 times speed at his podium, at the press conference that he had after the draft picks that the Houston Texans made today. He has a nickname, and I'm not sure how you guys are going to feel about this, but his nickname is the Locksmith. in case you didn't see this picture is courtesy of one Will Kunkel from Fox 26. He took a picture, and he's got a pretty cool shirt on. He's got a chain that's got a lock on it, and there's a key underneath the lock. As the kids say, it's pretty cool ice. And it does seem to have his initials on it. It's not a very high resolution photo. So yeah, he gave himself a nickname. Man, seems like me and Kamari might have a lot in common. I gave myself a nickname twice. Slash, because I was obsessed with Cordell Stewart when I was like 8 or 9. Thought he was cool. Slash, what a cool name, because he played everything. And then I gave myself the nickname the PG Train, which was my high school football alter ego, even though I weighed a whopping 145 pounds when I was playing in high school. Thank God I was fast. Also, thank God I was playing at the lowest level. No one cares about my high school football playing career. All I'm trying to say is he's not as fast as you'd like, and he gave himself a nickname. Whatever the case, he is going to be in for, I think, quite the competition at that cornerback position. As I mentioned, Desmond King, Miles Bryant, those are the guys that are the front runner to play nickel cornerback in 2024. And I wonder about that second outside corner spot. Because, okay, maybe he plays nickel corner. Sounds like he has the ability to be a roving safety. But do the Texans believe in Jeff Okudah or CJ Henderson that much that they're willing to say one of these guys, we can develop these former top 10 picks into being the starter opposite Derek Stingley Jr.? I'm a little skeptical of their belief that they can make that happen. I think you should be too. Steven Nelson Jr. is still a free agent, so maybe there's a chance that he comes back. But right now, that number 2 corner is a hole that you're hoping fills itself during the remainder of the offseason. And if not by the remainder of the offseason, during the remainder of the offseason, by the end of this coming season. And maybe a young player steps in there, and after, I assume, some trial by fire, come December, January, and hopefully playoff time, that guy's going to be ready to go. They're going to be going up against a lot of good quarterbacks this season, the Texans. So they do need, I think, another corner. He's not a traditional outside guy, based entirely off of what I'm reading. Maybe he is going to be that outside guy, but based off of everything I'm reading, people who pay way more attention than me and most of the people that are talking about the NFL draft as if they have a fucking clue, doesn't exactly seem like he's an outside guy. Appreciate people stopping by. Enrique Gonzalez says, I wanted another wide receiver gallant. Stop wearing those Seattle colors. Motherfucker, look at this. Wrong. What else do we have? Chris Howe says this is the best cornerback group the Texans have ever had. The best pass rush defense. We're going to be insane. I don't agree with that. I think with Jonathan Joseph and Kareem Jackson, they were better. Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. I like Derek Stingley. Everybody else at corner, no. Not so sold on any of those guys. Captain Insano, 13. Can't complain. And Nick, we trust. I agree. World of Warcraft Spartacus says there's a reason they took Kamari over Edgerrin Cooper. Let Nick cook. Okay. John Ryan is extremely disappointed. Nick didn't read my emails on what I wanted done. I sent sarcasm here. Tormac Johnson. Texans draft nerds are complaining about the trade up need to be shoved into a locker. All right. We do have to talk about another pick. Shalonda says there's no way he actually runs a 4.65. I'm sure he is a lot faster on a football field than he is running the 40 time. The 40 time, guys, is fucking stupid. Like the fact that I shaved off of 0.2 seconds at that combine. I went from like around a 5 to that 4.84, literally because Texans quarterback coach Gerard Johnson taught me how to get in a better stance. It is an unnatural way to run. You will never run straight line like that. So I agree that the 40 time, not the end of the world. Lots of comments. Appreciate you guys hanging with me, seeing as it is past midnight. Let's talk about the Houston Texans' second pick tonight. Blake Fisher, a tackle from Notre Dame. 6'6", 310 pounds. Here's his player bio. He was the first true freshman in Notre Dame history to start the season opener as left tackle. And then he suffered a meniscus injury in the first half. He was out until the last game of the year, where he started at right tackle, started all 13 games at right tackle. His second year, got a medical red shirt in 2021 because he only played those 2 games. And he started 12 games at right tackle last year. Here is Lance Zierlein's write-up, projecting him as a round 2 or 3 pick. Athletic tackle with the talent to gain some traction in a draft that is deep at his position. Yeah, we've seen a lot of tackles drafted the last couple of days. Fisher can be laid off the ball, creating early disadvantages, and his contact, balance, and hand usage can be spotty at times. He's a capable climber and puller as a move blocker, and he does a nice job of drive blocking with plus technique to create leverage. He establishes his anchor against a bull rush, but will occasionally struggle to open his hips and keep edge rushers from flattening into the pocket. In general, he's going to mirror up against counters. Fisher needs to do a better job with consistency and finishing blocks, but he has the tape and tools to become a starter at either tackle spot. His strengths: explodes his hips. Ooh, yeah. Hands into kick-out blocks for early lead. Impressive agility with the ability to shine on combo blocks and lead pulls. Might have leverage and power needed to dig out defensive tackles. His hands work independently, but they're both wired to his feet in protection. Mirrors crafty edge rushers with reactive athleticism and nimble feet, able to scramble and unlock his hips to find his brace and recovery. I don't know what most of that means, but it sounds nifty. Often the last out of his stance as far as weaknesses go, putting him behind in his chores. Hate it when you're behind in your chores. God damn, I've got so much shit to do this weekend because I procrastinate until the weekend. There's dishes piled up in the sink. Shit all over the floor. Not actual shit, just stuff. Allows his hands to be attacked when trying to fit up run blocks. Don't let people attack your hands. Miscalculates angles up to linebackers on cutoff blocks. Needs to play with tighter hands and more consistent control and pass protection. Occasional trouble opening outside hip to stay connected against speed at top of the rush. This is the most intriguing thing about Blake Fisher, who again is the 59th pick in this year's draft. His 27th pick of the second round. Fisher is the more naturally talented of the Notre Dame tackles. Joe Alt, 5th overall pick. Los Angeles Chargers, the other tackle. But Alt is much more consistent and technically sound. So, sounds like a high upside project. And makes sense to draft the high upside project at a position where you're set, right? I mean, you got Laramie Tunsil locked into a long-term contract. You got Titus Howard locked into a long-term contract. Lots of money invested in your tackles. And you would think that Titus Howard, given how much he's being paid, that Titus Howard is going to stay at right tackle, especially considering that he changed his Twitter profile to read that he is a right tackle only. I don't think he enjoys playing left guard, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think many people that have been watching the Houston Texans the last couple of years like seeing him play left guard. I will say Nick Caserio believes that he is unique in his versatility and in his ability to play left guard. So I suppose it's always a fallback option with Titus Howard. But in Blake Fisher, the Houston Texans, best case scenario, have a future tackle in a post-Laramie Tunsil or a post-Titus Howard world. And for this season, they have a swing tackle with high upside. I am curious about the left guard side of things because it seems like a lot of outsiders believe that a return to left guard for Howard, as I said before, isn't off the table. I thought that was going to be between Kenyon Green, who I'm not exactly that excited about. I feel bad for Kenyon Green. I feel like he's had some shit luck as far as injuries. Left guard should be between Kenyon Green and Juice Scruggs. Scruggs played very well when he filled into that position at the end of last year after Howard got hurt. But maybe Scruggs is going to be your center next season. He was a second-round pick. He did play center at Penn State. Jarrett Patterson looked pretty good when he came in, all things considered, as a sixth-round rookie. After the injury to Scott Quessenberry at the start of the year. So many fucking injuries at center. So maybe, just maybe, that center position is Scruggs, and Green is going to be your left guard, and move Patterson to backup or something like that. But, yeah, a lot of people on the outside looking in are thinking that there's potential that Howard moves back to left guard. A lot of investments in this offensive line. The big contracts for Titus Howard, for Laramie Tunsil, a fairly sizable contract for Shaq Mason at right guard. And now a first-round pick for Kenyon Green and 2 second-round picks for Juice Scruggs and Blake Fisher. Doesn't matter where you draft a player, not really after the draft is done, as far as what your expectations should be for them once they're on the roster. But they clearly have invested a lot in the offensive line, and that is smart. You got to do that. You don't want to find yourself where the Colts were with an Andrew Luck kind of situation. Nick Caserio said something I think pretty interesting at the post-second and third round press conference. You can't ever have enough tackles in your building. You need 3 to 4 because each is going to play based on team history. Probably true. I mean, they've had some shit luck at that side of things the last couple of years. Some fun facts. I guess he was nicknamed the Mayor when he was at Notre Dame because he was so welcoming to freshmen. This is a not-so-fun fact, and I noticed this on ABC. Remember a couple of years ago, I think it was during the pandemic draft, when they really were looking for all the human interest stories for every player getting drafted, and the go-to route was finding tragedy. This is truly a tragedy. His sister passed away in 2011 when she was 10 of a virus. His sister's name was Brianna. Horrible to see that. I saw that flash up on the broadcast and it bummed me out. It feels, obviously it's a part of his story. I mean, God, to have that happen to your sister when you're just a kid, you know, that's absolutely brutal. I don't really enjoy how these networks seem to put the sadness porn out there, whether it's the NFL draft or the Olympics, about what they've gone through. But hey, it's a part of his story, and they want to tell the complete human story about all these guys. And I mean, the draft is about all these players overcoming so much to get to a point where, you know, all of a sudden they get to realize a dream. So that is something he had to work through. But yeah, that's listed right here on the draft profile as well. Blake Fisher as a tackle. It's an intriguing pick, especially because I think at that spot, people were hoping that the Houston Texans would be taking a traditional outside corner or a safety. There were a couple of safeties that I believe were on the board for the Texans to take at that spot. What's the guy's name? I believe, was it Bullard from Georgia was on the board, and ultimately he doesn't end up going to the Houston Texans. That happens. I think the most frustrating moment I remember as far as players the Houston Texans could have drafted, this is over in my time when I was working over at the Flagship, was when, who was it? It was when the Seahawks, of all teams, traded up in front of the Texans to get Tyler Lockett. It seemed like the Texans were going to get Tyler Lockett. And instead, the Texans ended up taking Jalen Strong, and that didn't really work out so well. So there you go. As far as Blake Fisher. Before we get to Calen Bullock, I'm going to try to read some more comments. One Mike Street 1 says Kamari's played more outside than in the slot. I don't ever listen to the projected plays he will play. He does have inside outside versatility. He's used to playing with two safeties over the top. I'll be honest, man. I trust what the draft profile guys write when I know them. And Lance Erline's really the only one that I know. But all right, maybe you're right. Honestly, I didn't watch that much Georgia this past season unless they were playing in primetime. And generally when I'm watching college football in primetime, I'm like, oh yeah, that's number 25, number 15, takes me a while. Mac asks if Xavier Howard is still a free agent. Yes, he is. Maybe they bring in a free agent like Howard, bring Nelson back. I think they're more likely to bring Nelson back than bring in Howard. Dave's not here. 713 says, I can't be the only one in here. I don't know, man. Not many people joined my Twitch. I guess there's 2 people on the Twitch. How about that? Mr. Robot says, Blake Fisher is taking Titus Howard's job. Titus Howard is a third-round talent we overdrafted. The guy's played so much guard. Do any of us really know how good he is at tackle? The Texans clearly seem to like him. JB Thack said, I ran a 4.8 in 8th grade. Bullshit. No, you didn't. John Ryan, from what I've read, Fisher's a pretty damn good offensive tackle. How about that? Brandon Halam comments, I got the second round offensive tackle call correct, except for I thought it would be Patrick Paul or Sua Mataya. Sure. Listen, I don't get the mock draft. I don't. I really don't. Part of it is because I'm just too lazy to actually read up on and study every single prospect to the point where I'd actually feel like an expert on all of them. I feel fraud, imposter syndrome, talking about these players like I actually know what they can fucking do, you know? I can figure out how they fit in with the current Houston Texans, but the people who do this, all the power in the world to you. You're just wrong so much. I'm almost like, what's the fucking point? Like, it's got to be such a frustrating exercise to do a mock draft and have like 7 of the 32 picks right. Best case scenario. 7 is good. And then they continue to do it in the second or third. I don't know. All the power in the world to you, though. John Ryan asks, did we need to draft him this year? Well, that's the real question about the draft always. Do you draft for need? Do you draft best player available? Do you draft the best player available at the positions you need players at? And totally different philosophies. I think that if you are the Texans, you should be looking at best player available at all times. Don't forget, it was not that long ago where this roster seemed to have little to no talent, top to bottom. You want to think short term, and obviously trading for someone like Stephon Diggs is a move that you make with the idea that he is the final piece to getting you to a Super Bowl. But, I mean, you still have to look at the long-term construction of the team as well. So I'm not going to get mad at picking a tackle in that spot, but like Kamari Lassiter, I'm not expecting a whole lot of contribution from Blake Fisher in 2024. The years to come, sure, maybe. This year, I feel like they're going to have to really blow people away in training camp. And especially if you're an offensive lineman, that's so fucking hard to do, you know? Captain Encino says depth on the offensive line is always needed. Nick likes Notre Dame offensive lineman. Took Patterson last year. I'm scrolling through the chat in case you couldn't tell. D'Amico says, you win up front. This is true. In the trenches. What other comments do we have here? What's going on? This is a soft-spoken Paul tonight. Haha. Well, it is late, and I do have neighbors downstairs. I don't want to wake them up. I feel bad enough from time to time when I start swearing at my Alexa to shut the fuck up and stuff like that. I feel bad enough. They like me, but I'm trying to be kind of quiet tonight. I keep on doing this and procrastinating it until late, because there's a part of me that always wonders, does anyone give a fuck about what I have to say? That's my own thing that I got to get over. But especially when I know there's a lot that I don't know about these players. I just kind of have a feel for how they fit. We will talk about the last pick, Calen Bullock, in just a moment. I do want to read all the comments. John Ryan says he hates the Seahawks. I don't hate the Seahawks. I don't, but that's because I'm a Patriots fan and they beat them in a Super Bowl. Todd the Show, as a Giants fan, I hate that the Eagles got two good cornerbacks that just fell into their lap. Yeah. Now, they didn't really have any last year, and it sort of goes to show you how quick you can lose it in the NFL as a corner. When you lose it, man, it's just gone. Remember when DeAndre Hopkins fucked up Darrelle Revis in that Texans-Jets game, and TJ Yates, or was it Brandon Whedon? I forget, but some backup quarterback was just bombing the ball to him, and he made Darrelle Revis look awful. That was the end of Darrelle Revis as we used to know him. He used to be the best corner of the decade. And then he just left. They had Darius Slay, great corner. It wasn't that long ago that I remember watching Darius Slay in primetime action, and he was killing folks. And the same things with James Bradbury, who they found off the street, and he had a really good season for them. But then all of a sudden last year, everything fell apart. More comments. Need to try to get T'Vondre Sweat somehow. Not too late. He's in the AFC South, isn't he? Didn't the Titans get him? Scooby-Doo-doo-wop. Brandon Halam says Daniel Jeremiah is an expert, and he only got 20% of round one right. Probably 5% if you start at pick 6. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Wow, God, you guys, a lot of comments. Appreciate that. Ever Alvarado, one last comment on the offensive line for the Texans before we move on to Calen Bullock. Hey, Paul, do you think they are going to give Kenyon Green one more shot? Yes. I think you have to. He's a first-round pick. He's under contract. You're not going to cut him. Does feel like last year was entirely injury. It wasn't they put him on injured reserve, and we saw in the preseason game, was it against the Saints, where something really fucked up looked like it happened to his shoulder. Remember, you get spun around. It looked bad. From the sound of things, there were other things going on that the Texans did not really share with us. So, they're going to give him another shot, and we'll see what happens. It's really tough if you don't get reps. And he really hasn't had many reps to this point, And to come into camp late as a rookie, I think he was dealing with an injury his rookie year too. So hopefully there have been extenuating circumstances. Keep in mind, there were a lot of people when it comes to Derek Stingley in 2022, after that season was done, there were a lot of people that were like, oh, Jesus, this was a bad pick. And last year he was awesome. And he didn't even play the full season. Now, that is another concern that I think the Texans should have about their cornerback group as a whole. The fact that Stingley misses games due to injury, but when he's healthy, he's really good. And he changed, I think, a lot of people's opinions from year 1 to year 2. People were saying he was a bust after that first season because of how good Sauce Gardner was. I don't think there's that much of a difference between he and Sauce Gardner, except for Sauce Gardner lives way too online. What was it? I think I saw a picture of him with Odell Beckham Jr. and Drake the other day. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at Calen Bullock, a safety from USC. I'm going to go to the draft report written up by Lance Zierlein, again, from my radio station, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Ran a 4.48 40-yard dash, 2021. He was the USC Co-Defensive Perimeter Player of the Year. Jesus, how many awards do they give out at USC? Played in all 12 games with 6 starts, 3 at free safety, 2 at nickel, 1 at corner. He had 2 picks that season. 2022, second team All Pac-12, led the team with 5 interceptions, one of which he returned for a touchdown. Started all 14 games. He had 5 deflected passes as well. And in 2023, a first-team All-Pac-12 conference guy, tied for the team lead with 2 interceptions. Man, USC's defense, not good last year. One of them he returned for a touchdown. So, ball hawk in 3 years, 9 interceptions. That's pretty good. Let's read Lance's write-up. Lance projected him as a round 3 or 4 pick. Long and athletic with a series of feast or famine plays all over the tape. Well, we see a lot of that from Jalen Petrie, don't we? Bullock can be scary good in coverage and scary bad as a run defender. Okay, so free safety. He has the range to play single high safety, the athleticism to line up over the slot, and the ball skills to chalk up impressive on-ball production. As a run defender, Bullock's poor recognition, missed run fits, and bad angles to the football cost his team chunk plays and touchdowns. He won't always see or process the game clearly, but the athleticism and playmaking talent are hard to overlook. Young, talented, and if he runs well enough, there might be a team more interested in his skill set as a cornerback than as a boom-bust safety. That was really interesting, and I saw Lance Zierlein tweet about that. So maybe this is another guy that the Texans drafted that's supposed to be one position that could theoretically play at another. And I suppose to that comment that I read a little bit earlier about people that are projecting players that are listed at one position to play at another position, you're thinking to yourself, well, this might be a crock of shit. But hey, look, Lance studies a lot of tape, and it does seem like they have an opening at that number 2 corner spot. He's a big guy, 6'2", 188 pounds, bigger than Derek Stingley in terms of height. So maybe that is an alternative route for him. Strengths, quick bursts, smooth strides, fluid swerving and swiveling from a deep pedal. That's good. Transition quickness to stay connected in man coverage. Upscale ball hawking talent when eyes are properly balanced. Plays with the range, rise, timing, and body control of a receiver. Uses his length and field to affect the passing lane and catch points. Triggers hard downhill, looking to jar catches loose, but can be manipulated due to route jumping desires. As a former high school safety, I can see how that happens. Inconsistent eye balance to recognize play design as it unfolds. Fails to diagnose run plays at an adequate pace. Guilty of poor pursuit angles and missed run fits. Fails to wrap and finish ball carriers as a last line of defense. Runners and receivers can push through him for additional yards. So, safety was an actual need for the Houston Texans, and you got to wonder if Calen Bullock could actually play right away. I think with Bullock, he's going to be competing with Jalen Petrie, you would think, for time at free safety. Petrie's one of those guys who I feel like is pretty good when he's moved up into like big nickel roles. So there's certainly some spots that you could move Petrie if he's actually good. But those are your holdovers. And it does seem like the Texans are going to keep Jimmy Ward as one of their safeties next year. MJ Stewart and Eric Murray are in the mix. These are guys that we've seen play safety for them before. Is Bullock going to get more opportunities than those guys? I wonder. Like, those guys might be more special teams players than actual safeties. You also have Lonnie Johnson Jr. back in the mix, but I don't know. I mean, that's a guy who used to play corner, now does play safety. Remember Life of Lotto, the YouTube show? They traded up to get him, the 86th pick and 123rd pick to get him. So they clearly like him, something about him. Is it the playmaking ability, the ball hawking? Is it the fact that he maybe can play a little bit of corner? I don't know. He's versatile. He played defensive back and wide receiver growing up and said that he stuck with the defensive back because the line for reps at wide receiver was too long at the camps, and he liked the challenge of stopping the wide receivers. I like that too. That's actually pretty cool. So, hey, look at that. You have someone with versatility, someone who makes plays on the football, and who hopefully was a byproduct of bad defenders around him at USC. All right, let's go through some of your questions here and comments, and then we'll talk about, I guess, what the Texans do the last day of the draft with the picks that they still have. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to make sure that I have in front of me the remaining picks for the Houston Texans the rest of this draft. I'm sorry, I'm all of a sudden speaking slowly. I am filibustering, and NFL.com's website is randomly showing me pop-ups, and I am scrolling through all of those bad boys, and now we know what they have left. Pick 127, pick 188, pick 189, pick 238, pick 247. Okay. Let's see. Scrolling up so that I get everybody's stuff. Captain Insano says, look at Bullock's highlights. He's a ball hawk with a hell of a stride on him. Ward can't stay healthy. He might play sooner than expected. Here's the thing, though. Is Jimmy Ward the same player as a Bullock? I feel like Bullock is more one of those rangy guys. I think Ward is one of those guys that you're looking at as, you know, one of those tougher safeties, not necessarily a center fielder. Ward was hurt so much last year, and you do have to wonder, how much he's got left in the tank. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was getting in a fight at a San Francisco's Houston Texan joint practice. That's on my YouTube channel, by the way. Look it up. Jimmy Ward versus DeAndre Hopkins. They got in a big fight. What else do we have here? Bullock might have the best upside of the picks tonight. Does read that way at the very least. Anonymous says, what I like about him is the versatility. I feel like he can really play safety or cornerback. Increases his chances at finding playing time. A couple of people are commenting, I think the next pick should be defensive lineman. We need to go defensive tackle. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think a lot of people were thinking with those picks in the second round, all those defensive tackles, that was the time to go and get a defensive tackle. But I believe a lot of them were off the board by the time the Houston Texans were on the clock. I'm going to have to go back and look at today's picks. Yeah, there was a run on defensive tackles. You had Ruke Ro. That's actually how his name is pronounced, from Clemson, going to the Falcons at 35. Jerzon Newton to the Commanders at 36. Tavondre Sweat to the Titans at 38. Braden Fisk to the Rams at 39. And later, after the Texans had picked, Mason Smith at 48 out of LSU to the Jags. Chris Jenkins, 49, before the Texans' second pick. To the Bengals. Let's see. Two more went off the board right before the Texans picked. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State went to the Browns. It seems like that was the last one off of the board. So just one more off the board before then. Again, I don't know that much about these guys, especially the further and further we get into the draft, It doesn't look like defensive tackle was in high demand in the third round. The only ones that I saw go off the board, Dwayne Carter, 95 to the Bills, and McKinley Jackson, 97 to the Bengals. Brandon Halam comments, Titans have only gotten Joe Alt and Tavondre Sweat. I don't know how much better the Titans are going to be this season, but I do think they will at the very least be competent. The Chargers got Alt. What are you talking about? Latham is the guy. Thank you for clarifying that, yo. Right now I'm just reading comments, so some of this is going to be a little absent-minded. Todd the Show says the division has gone pass heavy. Who in the division is running outside of the Colts quarterback? Well, Jonathan Taylor as well. And I mean, the Colts ran all over the Texans in the last game of the year. That's why it's so fucking crazy that they didn't have Jonathan Taylor on the field for that fourth down that they fucked up. H10 Swarm says Nick Caserio may draft a wide receiver tomorrow like Troy Franklin or Javon Baker. Sure, they shouldn't draft a wide receiver. They're fucking fine at wide receiver. The people who are pushing for them to go get wide receivers when they already have enough wide receivers is driving me fucking crazy. Can you stop? Can you fucking stop? They got Stephon Diggs. They got Nico Collins. They got Tank Dell. I get it. They need to extend guys. But are you finding a diamond in the rough at wide receiver, a position where you still have Robert Woods and you have John Mechie and you're hoping that he can do something, and you extended Noah Brown. You didn't even need Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. I'm going to keep on saying that. They were fine at wide receiver. CJ Stroud's going to elevate the play of all the guys around him. They have a plus tight end. Now they have a running back in Joe Mixon, who's pretty good as a receiver as well. Come on, guys. How many more fucking weapons does CJ Stroud need? He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league already. He elevates the play around him. That was him his rookie season. Did you see what Patrick Mahomes just won a Super Bowl with? Like, Rasheed fucking Rice was his best wide receiver. I get it. He had Travis Kelce. I get it. But come on. You fantasy football fucking skill player addicts. Like, chill. Captain Insano says, Paul, what big defensive tackle can we get? Well, literally, I'm just going to cheat and go to the NFL draft website. Let's see. Filter. Defensive tackle, undrafted. You got Fabian Levet Senior. Wait, he's a senior already? He's fucking 22. Okay, well, he's got a kid. Mekhi Wingo from LSU. Brandon Dorius from Oregon, Tyler Davis from Clemson, Jordan Jefferson from LSU. Here's the thing. When in doubt, just draft the defensive tackle from the SEC, right? Just draft the defensive tackle from the SEC. Just do that, you know? Yo says, don't sleep on Lassiter. His play tape doesn't say 4.6. I'm not sleeping on him. What does that even fucking mean? Now I'm starting to get frustrated. Settle knocked Quentin Nelson on his ass, so he can't be that bad. Yeah, but take a look at the defensive tackle position. Sure. Yeah, like, there are guys that you've seen play before. Khalil Davis was here last year. They got Foley Fatukasi from the Jaguars. Kurt Heinisch has had some moments where he's look good. Like, every player in the NFL is capable of making a highlight-worthy play. Like, that's why they're there. It's doing it on a consistent basis. So don't tell yourself that because Tim Settle knocked Quentin Nelson on his ass once that he's like a really good player. That's probably a reach. Let's see some more question. The Adrian Flo is saying Lassiter is exclusively a slot wide receiver. Yo is saying Lassiter isn't only a slot. Okay, people are just arguing about Lassiter. Guys, I don't think any of you know really what you're talking about, but hey, it's just me. More comments. We need an offensive guard. Well, here's the thing. I think that they think Titus Howard's one of their guards. Green should be depth. Scruggs should allow Patterson to theoretically be interior offensive line depth as well. NJ Fuentes Respector says we were backed into drafting the Georgia cornerback. Possibly. Brandon Halem says, fun fact, Chris Jones is a 5th-round defensive tackle. That's true. Did they grow on trees? 5th round, great defensive tackles will become the best defensive player in the game, or best defensive lineman in the game. Yeah, especially since Aaron Donald's out of the league. 3-time Super Bowl champs. Find him in the 5th round all the time. I don't know. I know it's Texans, but I have to thank you before the night ends for burying the Astros so they can win the World Series like the Rangers did last year after you buried them. That's literally why we did that today. Not even kidding. And then I put on a Seattle Mariners shirt. Todd the Show is saying, I don't like the Texans, but I bet Mechie gets 700 yards this year and 5 touchdowns. That is a lot of yards, bro. That is a lot of yards. They have Stephon Diggs. They have Nico Collins. They have Tank Dell. They have Noah Brown. I don't think he's going to get more than any of those guys. I could be wrong, but there you go. Shelton says, my favorite metrosexual. Almost missed the stream. Ready to see if they get feisty with the extra cap space after cuts. I am actually curious about this. I don't know how the streaming stuff works. So when you join the stream, do you instantly go to live, or does it like show you the replay and then you eventually catch up? I don't know how it works. We do need to do more streams. I apologize for not doing them more. We've had some changes, obviously, at our radio station. I do really like doing a show by myself. That's nothing against Joe. The show with Joe has been going great, I think, but I do need to do this a little bit more. Sometimes I'm just a little gassed after the show's done, and then I feel like I got to over-prepare, and I don't know why I need to over-prepare. I'm pretty sure I could probably just turn this on and just ramble, and I don't know if it would be good, but people are clearly showing up, and I really appreciate that. What else do we have? Captain Insane, we are all draft experts. We just watched the highlights. Okay, fair enough. What else do we got? What else do we got? What would I prioritize next? Okay, so I took a look at the Texans depth chart. It's a good question. Let's see. I do think they need linebacker depth. I truly do. Right now, on the roster, the only linebackers are Aziz Al-Shaair, Christian Harris, and Henry Tuo. Everybody else, I haven't heard of. You have two guys with the last name Phillips, Jacob and Delshon. You have Neville Hewitt. You don't have any depth at linebacker. I'm assuming that they will get some linebackers, both for special teams and for just depth, because there aren't many right now. They got a ton of edge rushers. They probably could use some depth on the defensive tackle side of things, though. They might think they have enough. I know that they're looking at Danico Autry as a guy who can play on the exterior and on the interior. So I'm looking at defensive tackle. I'm looking at linebacker depth. I'm looking at tight end depth. I do like Brevin Jordan, but I feel like you should always be thinking upside. If there's somebody later on that you like, specifically that's got a little bit of speed, a little wiggle at that tight end spot, think about it. But I really do feel like offensively, they're fine. To what some of you guys have been asking for, an interior offensive lineman. Sure, Kendrick Green is still on the roster, too, a guy that they brought in for depth that just got injured, I think, right away. So that's an option. Corner, you can find corners late. It's not like you expect to find corners late, but somebody who is maybe from a frame perspective, speed perspective, athleticism perspective, somebody who fits the mold of a project outside corner, so someone like 6'3" that's fast or something like that, that's definitely something I think they should be thinking about as well. What other comments do we have here? Hogan says, you're not that good, but we do love you as far as rambling goes. Hey, fuck you. But I love you too. John Ryan says, the Astros suck sweaty, vinegary balls right now. That's oddly specific. Brandon Halam says another tight end, another running back. Thank you for saying running back. See, Hogan's right. In my rambling, I totally forgot that they maybe need another running back. But I'm going to keep on saying this. I think that Dameon Pierce is not a lost cause. That guy's fucking talented. Does he fit the scheme? Maybe not, but we all know what we saw his rookie year. I mean, he was like the best player on the team. God, that was a tough year. Oh. Swole Daddy says defensive tackle, linebacker, tight end. Yeah, that probably makes sense. Mr. Heisenberg says it would have been nice if they traded up for Kool-Aid or Cooper DeJean. It would have been really funny if they drafted a white corner. For all that talk about the Houston Texans being racist, firing a black coach and then another black coach, and then hiring, a third straight black head coach and having a black general manager for all those years. Forget about that. If they draft a white cornerback, does that mean they're white nationalists? I would love someone to pen in my column like that. But honestly, like drafting a white cornerback is, an attempt to end racism. So shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, the city of brotherly love, for doing it. Will they let him play corner? That's another question, I guess. Really is funny. I think last year with Riley Moss, too, same thing. Like, should Riley Moss play corner or safety? And I think he might have gotten moved to safety already. Jason Sehorn, the last white cornerback, make a movie about it like it's The Last Samurai, starring a white man, Tom Cruise, as the Last Samurai. Cade Stover. Wasn't Cade Stover a kicker? Oh, Cade Stover is a tight end for Ohio State. Who? Matt Stover. That's the kicker I'm thinking of. I think he was a kicker for the Baltimore Ravens back in the day. All right, I'm starting to get a little loopy here. More people are asking for running backs. Dion Green says, the fuck came across my feed. This guy is on drugs. If fucking only I was on drugs, you know? Listen, it's fucking 1 a.m. I've done 2 3-hour radio shows today. Okay? And I did a bunch of writing down of notes, and here I am. If you don't like the ADD rambling, you could get the fuck out of here. I don't want to yell it too loud because I don't want the neighbors downstairs to be scared of me. Okay? I'm whispering that. It's not an actual threat. If I saw you in person, I'd be a giant pussy and not actually do anything. Hard hands. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm scrolling through comments. There's so many. This is the tamest ball, too. What's this guy talking about? Am I that bad? You want me to bring a special guest onto the show? Thank you, Dion Green, for subscribing. Thank you. Oh. Hi, Arya. What do you think? Arya, do you think that Calen Bullock, who went to USC, do you think the Texans should have drafted him? Do you think Paul is like, do you think that Paul's allowed to hate USC the way that he did because a girl that he liked at Syracuse his sophomore year, a girl that he loved, transferred from Syracuse to USC? Is that fair to just hate USC all the time? What do you think? That is actually true. Oh, now she's meowing. What do you want? You want to get let out of this room? You done with me? She hates me right now. All right, bye. Love you. Mike Ralston, I just popped on and I totally agree you're on something. I'd love to have what you're smoking. No. I might smoke later, but no. Jesus, of course, this guy has a cat named Arya. I love all the new people who are here. Hey, sir, cats are easy. Now we're just going to fucking riff at this point because we got a lot of people who are, for some reason, hanging out with me. People hate on cats. I don't understand why people hate on cats. Now, listen, I love dogs. A lot of people think that if you have a cat, you hate dogs. No, I'm just too lazy to take care of a dog. Dogs are work. You can't travel anywhere. You got to get room and board for the dog. Fuck that. That's a lot of money. You got to take the thing out a couple of times a day, you know? You have to actually pick up the poop with like a bag on your hand. I'd rather pick up the poop with the scooper and then put it in a plastic bag and put it in the trash. But I don't have to go outside. Like, my cat can shit and pee in a box, you know? And okay, definitely not as loving, that's for sure. She hates being held, as you could see right there, you know? Now, she likes being pet, but cats are a lot easier. They're low maintenance. You can be gone for a while. And have someone come in to check on them a couple of times, but they take care of themselves. I feel bad when I leave. I miss her. But cats are easy. They're really, really easy. They are the perfect bachelor pet. I will say there's a lot of people who are allergic to cats, and that kind of sucks. But that's really the only drawback, I think. A lot of people hate cats. I will say cats are like the fucking lottery. Like, you might get a good one. You might get a really shitty one. You might get someone that's in between. Arya's kind of in between. She's pretty, right? She's pretty cat. But, you know. Look at her. Look at her sitting in the corner over here. Are you uncomfortable with all this attention? Anyway, there you go. Coach Bob 5 says, I don't think you're on drugs, but then again, I am. Shout out to you. What kind of drugs are you on, Coach Bab 5? I want to know. I want to know. Shelton says, at least a dog will wait to eat you if you die. Cats immediately eat your face. Well, hey, if I can become a part of the circle of life and feed my sweet little kitty, if I, croak, good. I care that much about my cat. Do you care that much about your dog? What if your dog has nothing to eat? You want your dog to just be sad and die of starvation? Not cool. He should be able to eat your face, okay? Now, I would hope he would eat, like, fleshier parts first, right? Because there's probably, like, more meat there. I don't know. Just a thought. I'm not trying to be Army Hammer, the cannibal guy, okay? I'm just throwing stuff out there. Don't F with Cats. Great Netflix doc. Yeah, those people are fucking crazy. Dion Green says you should talk about world topics. You're more than sports. Well, thank you for saying that. There's a problem is when you're in this industry, the way to get people to talk to watch you on this shit is like I have to lure people in by saying I'm talking about the draft, and then like 30 minutes in I start talking about politics, and then people get mad at me because they're like, came here for sports, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I know, but I have takes on things. Do you want me to talk about the protests? I feel like I need more notes in front of me to talk about the protests and actually talk about it in a rational, calm, and level-headed way. But I don't know. Maybe I don't need to do that. I mean, Sketch, who I've been hating on a little bit this week, but then I listened to the podcast that he did with Theo Vaughn, and I feel like, okay, he's kind of witty. I don't understand why people would watch him play video games, but maybe I just need to do a fucking stream of consciousness. Just show up and just ramble about something. But I don't know. It is really weird streaming when you think about it, right? Like, I'm just talking into a webcam. There was no one directly in front of me. I have no one to really get feedback off of except for the little chat section that I have right here. When I'm doing a radio show, at the very least, I have like a producer to look at or a co-host to look at. And those visual cues, especially if the person is laughing, whether they're faking the laugh or actually laughing, like it makes you feel like confident. When you're staring at a wall or at a webcam like this, like that, it makes you feel like a fucking crazy person. Coach Bab is on painkillers. Oh, okay. Little Vike? Little Oxy? Be careful with that. Be careful with that. The Adrian says, are we going to get D-grade celebrities calling the Texans picks tomorrow? Well, I think Sketch was supposed to do it tonight. I'll be honest, since we were doing it on the draft show, and we saw the picks, and then we on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 was me, Del Olay, Yaya, and Joe George. I didn't get to see the announcements of the picks, and we were on delay, so we would see the picks online, and we'd talk about it, and then, I don't know, I'd be looking at my co-host and not actually see what happened. So I think Sketch already went. I could be wrong. John Ryan says dogs are like little human kids. I guess. I don't know. Like, once you get past 3 or 4, I'm pretty sure that after that age, that the kids like are way smarter. But I don't know. Coach Bab has 4 cats. Jesus, that's a lot, sir. NJ Fuentes Respecter says, this is why you don't trust women who dislike dogs. What do you mean by that? I will say that women who own dogs are a little bit too psychotic with them. Generally, and I'm generalizing here, but generally, they're shitty at disciplining dogs, and their dogs walk all over them. And actually, you could say that about a lot of people. And you'll constantly hear from a one, oh, he never does that. Let me tell you a story. When I was in Seattle, I was dating a girl for a little bit of time, and this girl had a beautiful dog. It was a half husky, half German shepherd, 2 different colored eyes. It was truly beautiful. I think it was like a year old. The dog was smart, but annoying as fuck. And here's why. we went out like on a first date. She brought the dog. It was on a snow day in Seattle. She brought it to a park, and a bunch of my friends and I, we were all sitting in the park, debating going somewhere to go sledding. And the dog just wouldn't shut up. It wouldn't stop whining. It was because there were other dogs in the park. The dog wanted to play with these dogs, but the dog was a little too aggressive with those other dogs in the past. This girl who's 5'2" easily could have been like flown around by this husky / German Shepherd mix. So anyway, we have a couple of dates. The first date, the dog was there. The dog was kind of annoying. The last date that we had, she decided to say, you know what? I'm going to bring my dog over and bring my dog into your place where it can meet your cat. And we may or may not have smoked a little pot before bringing the dog upstairs into my apartment. And we get up to the top floor where my apartment is, and I let the dog inside. I make sure that the cat's in a kind of safe area. And there's this little sliding door between where my bedroom was and like the main room. It's a small place. It's like a studio, but it seemed like it had a bedroom. So I leave like this little crack open in the door. It's like that big. So the cat can see it. Dog can't quite get in. And I figure Arya, my cat, who's behind me right there, was going to hide because she's a little pussy. She's, you know, a cat, but just terrified of everything. The Roomba goes off, freaks out. Loud noises, freaks out. But for whatever reason, she decides this half husky, half German Shepherd, Cujo fucking dog, I'm gonna stand my ground. So she's sitting like right by the crack in the door, and the dog's like, oh my God, I want to check this out. But the last time that this dog had gone up to a smaller animal was at a dog park, and it picked up a smaller dog by like the head and just started walking around in a circle with it. Well, that's a little bit nerve-wracking to hear about, right? She told me this story and wanted to bring the dog over to my place to meet my fucking cat with like no introduction, no hair exchange, you know, to let them at least get a feel for each other's scent so they're not freaking out when they're near each other. So anyway, like having smoked a little weed, I'm going back and forth between a conversation with her and also looking over my shoulder to determine whether or not my cat is safe. And at one point, the dog's like sniffing through the crack in the door. And next thing I know, the dog just jumps back. And I look in the door, and my cat's got like satanic, like jet airplane ears going on. And it's just like this death look on her face. And cats actually are very expressive. If you look at them, like when they're pissed, you can tell they're pissed. She doesn't meow, she doesn't growl, but she like you can tell when she's pissed off. And this dog just was absolutely smacked in the fucking face by my cat, who is not declawed. And this dog didn't know what to do. My cat wanted to kill it. And at that point, the girl that brought the dog there started yelling at me and turned into a whole big thing. And next thing I know, I was walking her down to the elevator and to her car, and she leaves. And next thing I know, I was blocked on everything. So I don't know. Anyway, I don't exactly have the highest opinion of single dog mothers based off of that incident. If you're a person that brings your dog all over the fucking place, like, come on. Do you have to always have your dog around you? I don't think you do. Some people are saying, let's talk football, bro. Fair point. Fair point. Sorry. I've really gone on a ramble here. You got a booger hanging out of your nose, do I? Do I really? That's pretty funny. Without bias, Peace Dog says, I could say dogs are better than cats. I think you're biased, sir. I think you're biased. What else do we have? 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 Border Collies are probably smarter than most teams. Border Collies are actually smart. I agree with that. Reading some more comments. Oh man, these are some great comments. I think that's it, guys. I think that's it. I think I'm out. I think I'm out of juice. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. Am I going to post this in podcast form? Abso-fucking-lutely not. I'm not going to do it. Too lazy. I might have a slightly less unhinged draft show after final rounds of the draft tomorrow. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I can't believe that some of you have stuck around as long as you have for whatever the fuck that tangent was. But, yeah. Thanks for stopping by. Love you guys. So long. Farewell. If you haven't already, I'm supposed to say this, right? Like subscribe and like or something. I don't know. Fuck it. It's on Twitch too. And Facebook.com/PaulGallantSports. And on Twitter, @GallantSays. This is it. It's all over. I can leave, John Ryan. I'm gone. I'm out of here.